Hi, and welcome to CryptoBiography. I'm your host, Brandon Starr. This is episode 375 of CryptoBiography, and it's a new story, and it's being called John Cullins, or Situational Awareness John Cullins, because this is essentially set in the same world as last week's story, which was simply called Situational Awareness. So I decided to make that sort of the name of the world as well, at least for now. I don't know how long of a series this will be, but I kind of like the sort of, pulpy, spy-y, criminal-y sort of feel of this. And so we did another one this week, and here we go. I woke up to a gun being pushed into my forehead. It did wonders for my adrenaline, but I managed to keep from panicking. Trying to grab the gun was more likely to kill me than help me. And whoever this was had their full weight on my body with theirs over the hotel sheet, so I was partly pinned down. One arm was sort of free, but I would have had no chance. And whoever he was, he felt heavy. I looked up at him. He was wearing a ski mask, so there wasn't much to make out, and the room was quite dark anyway. "I'd be dead if you wanted me dead," I offered, hoping my logic was as sound as I was trying to make it seem. "So how can I help you?" "Where's John Cullins?" This is a problem, because I know a lot of people. I know a lot of bad people. And I know the kind of people that other people might sit on a sleeping person to learn about. But I didn't know John Cullins. I'm a little too old to break into houses, but I was the kind who did so, and to get information. And so I knew that saying I didn't know was a fine way to get myself beaten or shot. So I'd have to make it good. As it sometimes happens in such situations, time briefly slowed down. My mind was racing, thinking a lot of thoughts about what I might do, who this was, exactly why he might want John Cullins, and of course, who John Cullins was and why this guy thought I had information about him. There wasn't enough to go on to have any specific course of action clearly be the right one. My mind then went to a quick analysis of who was astride me. If he was like me at that age, then he wasn't necessarily looking for an excuse to kill me, but might if I wasn't forthcoming enough. He seemed to be reasonably fit and was heavy, so he'd be strong. At my current age, I wouldn't have a chance. Not without some sort of advantage, and right now he had all the advantages. So my mind thought about his question. He wasn't asking for information about this John Cullins, so either he or his employer knew exactly who he was. He only asked where he was. Did they have any idea? If they did, and I said anything, then they would know I was bluffing, lying, or had no knowledge. That could end with a pummeling or my death. But if they had any clue, why would they send this guy into my room in the middle of the night? I mean, clearly they thought I had information I didn't, but this was the act of someone who was grasping at straws, not someone close to a breakthrough. No. They had no idea where John Cullins was. That I could use. "They don't let me know where he is," I lied, "but I have a contact who knows." The man went very still. He was thinking. Slowly, he shifted back a little. He brought a knife into my field of vision. "How do you contact him?" "I have a number memorized. I contact his people, leave a message, and my contact either calls me back or comes to where I am." This was all bullshit. I could only hope it worked. It did, at least a little. "Let's give this contact of yours a call, then." The weight shifted off me, but even as he was sliding off the bed, he warned me, "My gun is pointed at you." He didn't have to say any more. He didn't have to vocalize the threat to shoot me. He was a pro, and I knew it. I'd dealt with enough of them. Hell, I'd been one of them. My situation hadn't improved much. The room was dark, but now the man turned on a flashlight, which was being held in parallel with the barrel of his pistol. In that light, I could see my phone on the bedside table. I slowly reached down, not giving him any reason to think I was about to attack him, and picked it up. I brought it slowly up in front of me and turned on the screen. I didn't call one of my preset numbers, but dialed the full number, exactly as I told him I would. Now remember, I didn't know John Cullins. Somehow, some very serious people got it in their heads that I do know him, and now I have to bluff my way out of this. But fortunately, I have a good idea who to call. She picks up, her purring voice that always makes me wish I was 20 years younger. But then again, the 3 times I saw her, I was so terrified that any thought of sex had fled my mind. I called her because she was the best I knew, far better than I was in my prime, and I wasn't half bad. And I knew that she would be able to play along and read between the lines I would give her. I had her on speaker, knowing the man would want to hear the other end of the conversation. "Who is this?" she said. "Tom Aberdeen," I said. No sense lying about that. "A gentleman has caught up to me on the road, who understands that I'm familiar with John Cullins. He wants to know where he is." "I see. May I talk with him?" I glanced over. I couldn't really see well past the flashlight being shined on me, but a slight grunt gave me the answer. "Sure, he's listening." "I understand you're at a hotel east of L.A. Is that correct?" "Correct," I said, after hesitating to make sure the man wasn't going to cut me off. "John Cullins isn't far. May I take you to see him, or if you prefer, to show you where he is located?" The man hesitated, then grunted, "Yes." "Excellent. I'll be there in about an hour." The line cut off. The man could have taken me away or even just killed me outright. Me, I don't think I would have trusted anyone I was holding at gunpoint to bring someone else into the situation. But maybe it was because she was a woman. Maybe he figured he could handle any woman who was about to take him to see what he wanted to see. Or maybe these guys were just that desperate to find John Cullins. Whatever the reason, we waited damn near exactly 1 hour, and then I heard a car pull into the motel parking lot. It was still dark and would be for some time. The only thing that had changed was that the man had handcuffed me to the bedpost and moved all my possessions out of my reach. The car pulled up close to the door somewhere, though with the curtains drawn I couldn't be exact. The engine cut off. Some steps, a little high-pitched, approached the door, and a soft knock was given. The man asked simply, "Yeah." "It's your ride to see John Cullins." That smoky voice sent a new thrill down my spine. It was partly the adrenaline of the situation coming to a head. It was partly because I knew this woman and had always been impressed by her. And it was partly because I was frightened of this woman, even though she was coming to my rescue. "Stand back," the man said. There was a slight noise of movement outside, and only then the man opened the door. He knew I was not a threat, so he was getting a bead on her. He paused in the light coming in from the door when he saw her. I couldn't see her from the bed, but I couldn't blame him, because I knew who he was looking at. Tall, with straight black hair, and a face that wasn't traditionally beautiful, but was remarkably striking, and dark eyes that might as well have been oubliettes. I also knew that, though the man was heavy and clearly strong, he would have a hard time overpowering her if he tried such a thing. She was thin, but with muscles that had been honed until she could surprise any opponent with her strength. He didn't point the gun at her, but at the ground in her general direction, which I took as a good sign. The man slipped out, and the door shut. I didn't have an easy way to get out of the cuffs, but I would deal with that if and when I had to. Within a minute, the door opened again. The woman, who had never given me her name in the 4 times I had met her, was in the doorway. Swiftly and surely, she loosed the cuffs. "Get your things and get on the road," she said. "I'll take care of the man. Usual fee applies. My question is, do you want me to research this, find out why they're after you? Same prices apply." I thought about it, then shook my head. "No. It doesn't matter to me who thought I might know John Cullins, whoever he is. I've gotten too comfortable with my retirement. People know who I am, who I was. So I'm going to change my name, relocate, and hide. Can I pay you to help find people who can assist me on that? Yes. And do you need anything else from me other than payment? No. I left, putting my bag in my car. I passed a nice Acura, and seemingly sleeping in the passenger seat was a large man, maybe 40 years old, my attacker. I nodded once at her, reminded myself to send payment to that special account, and got in my car. It was time to go find my new life. And that's the end of the story. I could say for this week, because, we might continue on and do more stories in the situational awareness world, but I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. We will continue. I will see what happens when I sit down to write this week. It's also going to be a little bit of a complex week to deal with. I have some family coming, and as much as I'm looking forward to it, it definitely makes things a little trickier in terms of finding time to write and so on. So if you have any comments or questions about this episode or previous episodes, CryptoBiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook, X, or Mastodon. And thanks for listening. Words and music, copyright 2024, Brandon Starr, all rights reserved. Characters and events are fictional, fictionalized, or satirical.